of the slate, now is the time to post something in the chat or unmute yourself and make your comment. And I'm just checking to see if there are any comments.
You guys are all amazing. I'm really thrilled that you're all back.
Thank you, Jen. Seeing no objections,
Up in here.
we are saying that the board is elected to serve in 2021. And now we go on to a few LPNA updates. Greg, do you have that slide?
I'm looking for it. My PowerPoint just turned black.
Oh dear.
All right, well, it doesn't matter. I'll just go on and we'll just talk to the points. So our normal holiday event this year, it will not be happening in the same manner because of the COVID restraints. So there won't be any Santa or hot chocolate, but LPNA is still sponsoring the holiday trees for outdoor display. And if you ordered a tree before the deadline, you can pick it up at the Los Paseos Homeowners Association Clubhouse on Saturday, December 5th. And the pickup time is between 11 and 3. Additional trees can be requested. The vendor who's supplying the trees has said that he will have some additional trees available. If you missed your chance and you would like to join the people who are going to be putting these outdoor trees in their yards lit up for the holidays and decorated for the holidays, you can just contact Greg Peck and he will be able to get a few more trees as needed when people request them. The second item is that Herb Bowen has been working on another park issue, getting LED lighting upgrade for the tennis courts. The LED lights will be more efficient and definitely more reliable and will solve an ongoing maintenance problem for the parks people. This work is expected to happen in January and February and expected to be completed by March. So this will be a significant improvement for the tennis courts. We also have a native plant project for Los Paseos Park that I've been working on. It's funded by our Beautify SJ City grant. And it was delayed somewhat by the COVID restrictions, but planning continues and the city people have given us an additional year to complete the grant. So we have until December 2021 to get those plants planted. That gives us 2 more planting seasons in early spring and again in the fall. We don't typically plant plants over the summer when it's too hot. If anyone is interested in participating in this project, either in the planning or in the actual planting, we can use some more help. We plan on doing this, at least for the spring portion, on a distanced basis. The actual planting can be done by one person at a time. If anybody is interested, they can contact me directly at my email address of treasurer@lospaseosneighbors.com, or they can contact Greg and he can pass that along. I have one other item to discuss that isn't on the list. Greg has been working with the Department of Transportation to get a trash can installed at the end of Paseo number 2, leading to Tulare Hill. This now gives people, this has happened, it now gives people a chance to put their dog waste bags somewhere when they get down off the hill. And we're finding that fewer bags are being left by the canal on the hill by the dog walkers. So that simple, putting a trash can in a logical place has been helpful. And that is the end of my LPNA update. So Greg, I turn it back to you.
Okay. Vanessa? Hold on a second. Let me get Karen back as a co-host. She came back on, her battery died on her computer and she had to log back in. Okay. Okay, she is now back as a co-host. Vanessa? Hi.
Hi, everyone. How's everybody doing? It's been a long time. I'm glad to be back. And thank you for having me. So I'll go quick. I know you have some great presentations from OSA and HomeFirst, and they have a lot more exciting information to share with you than I do. So first of all, just wanted to give you a quick update. As you all know, as I'm sure you're seeing on the news, the Santa Clara County has unfortunately regressed back into the purple tier, which is the most restrictive tier under the COVID restrictions for the state. It basically means that there are going to be some restrictions on indoor dining, on indoor retail, and basically our city services are going to continue to operate only for essential services. So things like vehicle abatement, code enforcement, we're doing that as best we can in the safest manner possible. For vehicle abatement, we're still only removing vehicles that are an extreme blight situation, that are a danger or an emergency situation for the community. So a lot of times you're going to see some cars just sort of sit there. That's been one of the biggest concerns that we've received from constituents is abandoned vehicles. Also be aware that some of those vehicles probably belong to some of your neighbors who, because of COVID, don't have anywhere to go or aren't going anywhere. So they may not be abandoned. They just may be your neighbors who don't have to move their car because they're not, they're able to work remotely. So those are some of the changes that we're going back to. Library centers and community centers remained closed. As far as the parks go, the playgrounds are going to be closed again. They were open temporarily and folks were using them with hand sanitizer and encouraged to disinfect them after certain use. But because of the spike in cases, we're encouraging folks not to use the playgrounds at our parks. So one of the things that Greg really wanted me to update you all on is that we continue to provide food distribution as a city. And we recently approved some contracts with some nonprofit organizations to provide food to those in need. So food insecurity is a big problem right now during COVID. And so I will share in the chat the link for folks to sign up if you're interested, or if you know someone who needs food assistance. They can easily sign up. We have some new programs where not only do we do hot meals like Meals on Wheels for seniors, but there's also free delivery groceries for low-income families or folks suffering from the pandemic. So that's really important information. If you received our newsletter this week, the links for signing up is also included in that, and I'll put this in the chat as soon as I'm done with my update. Another really important update that I have for you all is we are still searching for commissioners for both the Charter Review Commission as well as the Redistricting Commission. So as you know, redistricting, that's what sets the boundaries for the council districts, and it happens every 10 years after the census. So we're looking for a good diverse pool of experienced applicants for those. And I would like to encourage you all to apply. We also have our community awards. We're doing them virtually this year. So you can nominate anyone you would like for a few different awards. We're doing Neighborhood Association of the Year Award, as well as Neighborhood Leader of the Year, and the Charlotte Powers Woman of the Year Award. So if you have someone in your community who you would like to nominate, I'll put the link in also in the chat so you can start nominating folks. We're going to have those virtually, and we'll be able to provide folks with a nice plaque and a nice gift for their contributions to our community. Another update is the safe parking site at Southside Community Center. I'm sure that most folks don't even know that it exists. It's been so very well run that we haven't had any incidents in terms of any disruption of the neighboring residences, businesses in the area. So there are currently around 20 cars that are currently sheltering in place at the Southside Community Center. These are folks who are currently down on their luck and living out of their vehicles. The Southside Center is being run by the nonprofit organization Life Moves, and they are currently providing full case management for all of the folks on that site. Since the initiation of this program back in May of 2019, we've been able to serve 99 households at the safe parking site at Southside, and of those, 64 of them have moved on to positive housing opportunities, either stable housing or moved in with a family member, but were able to get a roof over their heads. So it's been a program that's shown a lot of success. During COVID, some of the things that had to change is now the site is currently operating 24 hours a day. It was originally only operating in the evenings from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And now folks are allowed to shelter in place there all day long. So they're there 24 hours a day. We are providing not only case management services in terms of their in terms of their needs as individuals, but they're also getting monthly COVID testing as well as regular health care from a mobile clinic that comes by. And the Southside restrooms are open for them 24 hours a day. So that's one of the many services that we're offering to our homeless individuals in District 2. Many of you, you'll hear more about the HomeFirst bridge housing sites when HomeFirst comes on, but safe parking has continued for over a year now, and it's been quite successful. And then I think, Greg, you had a few other things. I don't yet have an update for folks on the house on the hill. I've reached out to the planning department just to see if there's anything different going on with that. I've been told by Greg that there may have been a change in the application or an update in the application. So once I have that information, I'll be able to pass that on to Greg. And then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Greg, am I missing anything? I know that you had a list in your agenda, which I don't see here. You're not sharing right now, so I just want to make sure I got everything.
Let me try to go back. There it is.
Oh, the Great Oaks Data Center. So the Great Oaks Data Center, there was a community meeting tonight, actually it's happening right now. They're taking public comment as we speak. This is a conditional use permit from Equinix. It's a company that's been operating in the area for quite some time now, and they want to expand their data center and get a few additional generators. There has been some concern from folks in the area about just any impacts that this would have on the neighborhood. There isn't any residences immediately near that site, not within at least 500 feet, which is the original noticing for planning for the planning department. So the meeting that we're holding tonight was actually a special meeting called by some community members who live over in Santa Teresa, Bernal area, because they were concerned about the project. There was a community meeting with the CDC regarding any environmental impacts. And so that is underway. They are allowed this expansion if under the current zoning of the area does permit this type of operations center. So they're basically just running through the process to get a conditional use permit to expand. If anybody is interested in that, we've been doing a lot of work on it. I can connect you with Lucas, who is our land use staff member, and he can provide you with any information or if you have specific questions about that site. But it is sort of in your vicinity, so I wanted you all to be aware of that. You did not receive a noticing for the community meeting because you're not within the 500-foot radius of the development.
Hey, Vanessa, can I ask a question? You had mentioned the showers at the Southside Safe Park. Are the showers available for other people that aren't actually in cars, that aren't actually staying at the safe park, or they just?
So the restrooms at Southside are available to the safe parking residents. They're available to them 24 hours a day, only to those folks. The community center is closed. So the community center is currently closed because of COVID. And then the showers that come by are the mobile showers. So they're the mobile showers that come by on a weekly basis for folks, because Southside doesn't have showers on the campus.
So conceivably, anybody that lines up in the area could get a shower. It's not, you don't have to be staying at Southside.
Yeah, when the showers are on the property, yes. So they come there specifically for the residents. But if you know of someone who needs services, the mobile showers are coming to different locations. across the city. So I can, if you know of someone who needs that support, we can connect them with those services.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, please let me know about that, Vanessa, how we can get contact with those services.
Any
Hello?
other questions for me?
Did you talk about abatements?
Oh, in the city services updates, so abatements are still on hold. So this is actually a state mandate from the governor. We are not moving homeless individuals from unsanctioned encampments at this time. Unsanctioned encampments are receiving regular garbage pickup as well as sanitation kits. So they are receiving things like hand sanitizer, hand wipes, and then clean water so that they can wash their hands. There are a few encampments in District 2 that have been there for quite some time, and they're going to stay there. So these encampments are being serviced on a regular basis by HomeFirst and our outreach teams at the city. Folks are being offered the opportunity to move into whatever housing is available. At this time, the housing that is available is mostly at the emergency shelter beds that were created through COVID. Most of our other projects are pretty much getting fully full. So for example, the Bridge Housing Community on Bernal, that is pretty much to capacity. They expect that Ferrari will be up. The Ferrari site will be up to capacity soon. You'll learn more about that from HomeFirst later. But we are offering services when folks are high risk. They're being offered hotel rooms or shelter beds. And those folks that are taking up those offers are getting moved into those locations. And other folks who are not taking up the offer for a shelter bed are staying in the encampments, and we're providing services as best we can to those encampments. But the encampments will not be abated. They're not being removed. And services, limited services are being provided.
Thank you.
Vanessa, where are the sanctioned encampments? Are you allowed to tell us?
No, well, there aren't
Which
any,
one? So that we know that they're, that's why they're not getting.
well, there,
Oh, I thought you said there were 2 in District 2.
oh, just the roofer. No, I'm talking about the
Cutting out, no?
temporary bridge housing site. Sorry. No, I was saying that the site.
Oh,
So we have the Rue Ferrari site, which is the bridge housing site on Rue Ferrari, and then the other one on Bernal. So these are our 2, I shouldn't say sanctioned encampments. These are our 2
no,
temporary.
you shouldn't.
These are our 2 temporary emergency relief
Okay.
houses folks are being moved into.
Okay.
There aren't any sanctioned encampments per se, but the encampments that are existing right now that are unsanctioned are not being abated.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you.
Mary, did you have a question?
Yeah, Vanessa, can you say how the search for a new police chief is going? Do you have any information on that? Is it on track?
I believe it is on track. It is a nationwide search. And so we are looking at applicants from all across the country. The goal is to have someone in that position by early next year. So the search continues, and it's my understanding that we have had some fruitful applicants, and that there was some really good feedback from the community meetings that were held a couple of weeks ago on that. And so that is the goal is to, like I said, have someone by early next year.
Maybe
Thank you.
Captain Elle can say something about that later if she's back on. I have a question for you, Vanessa. You had mentioned some contact information. Who could we direct someone who's unsheltered right now, an unsheltered individual? Who can we contact to get that person some help? Or who can that person help?
So you can still, you should still contact our homeless concerns team. And that's just homelessconcerns@sanjoseca.gov. And they can come out there and talk to the person and offer services and provide information on what is available right now during COVID. If it's one individual, not like an encampment area, and it's just one person that you're hoping to connect with them, there's also Abode Community Services. They have been our partner in reaching out to individuals, in particular those who are currently in a stressful situation or who have become either a more high profile in our community. So for example, if you know of someone who is clearly in need of mental health services or who is clearly in need of some kind of support, you can contact Abode Community Services and they will ask you for a description of the individual, where the person is normally located, and they will send out an experienced social worker to talk to that person.
We've had several people entering our parks now and then, camping out a little bit on the picnic tables and having a couple beers, and just wondering what to do about that, because it's sometimes intimidating to other neighbors, the way that they behave. Is that a park problem or PRNS or what?
Well, it really depends on what they are doing and what the problem is at the moment. If they're just visiting the park,
Yeah.
then, if they're not harassing anyone or, behaving in a way that could be, that's danger to folks, there really isn't much that we can do, because, in-house folks have just as much of an ability to use our parks as we do. If they're committing a crime, then obviously that's a call to 911 to get that looked at. But if it's someone, a homeless individual who's in distress or in need of immediate services, then I would say contact Homeless Concerns or one of our nonprofit partners.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Vanessa?
Let me see if there's something in the chat. I see something. Oh, she'd put the information for the community awards nominations is in the chat, and then applying for the city commission is in the chat, and signing up for food. So if you're interested in any of those things, you can find the information in the chat. Thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thanks for that update. Next is Gavin here.
I am.
I will stop sharing my screen and you can take it over. Thank you very
Thanks.
much, Vanessa. Appreciate your update this time.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here with you all this evening. My name is Gavin Comstock. I work with the Open Space Authority. I'm the volunteer programs administrator. This evening, I'm also joined by my colleague. Not sure whether you're in gallery view or list view, but the wonderful Mark Landgraf is also here with me this evening, and we're looking forward to sharing with you all an update on North Coyote Valley, as well as just what the Open Space Authority has been up to in your neck of the woods and the greater Santa Clara Valley. So we've got some slides prepared. I believe that Mark is going to share his screen, and I am
now in gallery view, Gavin. So
all right. I'm gonna let Mark share his screen, and I'm gonna give him the MC powers. He's gonna walk through some slides and then hand it back to me, and we'll take some questions from y'all at the end.
Great, thanks very much, Gavin. And yeah, thank you, Greg, and everyone for allowing us to talk a little bit tonight about the Open Space Authority. Can everybody see the screen okay?
Yes.
Great.
That's a beautiful picture.
Oh, thanks. I wish I could take credit for it, but we have some really good photographers on staff, and we also have a wonderful team of volunteers who provide some of the shots that we use in our work. So I wanted to start here by just talking a little bit about our agency for those who are less familiar with us. The Open Space Authority is a public agency that, a relatively small one. It's about 45 employees. We are based in San Jose, in fact, right around the corner from Los Paseos on Las Colinas Lane. And we are special districts, so we're independent of the county of Santa Clara or any other government agency for that matter. We have our own board of directors with 7 directors. And we were formed in 1993 to protect a green belt as a balance to the urban growth in Silicon Valley. And protect land, indeed, we have been doing. We've been working on that quite a bit over the years. And this map shows roughly our jurisdiction. And so in the north, you can see the cities of Milpitas, Santa Clara, Campbell, certainly all of San Jose is in our jurisdiction, Morgan Hill. Gilroy in the south of Santa Clara County is technically not in our jurisdiction. It's a donut hole, but otherwise all the unincorporated areas are also included in our jurisdiction. So we serve about 1.4 million residents. We have the open space preserves that you see in dark green on this map, with Sierra Vista adjacent to Alum Rock Park up in the north, and Coyote Ridge, Coyote Valley, both really close to all of you in Los Paseos. And then a little bit further south and west, Rancho Cañada del Oro, which is our largest preserve that's open to the public. So all of those preserves have trails that people can hike on. Coyote Ridge is still docent-led tours only, but will be open to the public with unfettered access in the near future. And then the other lands that are indicated in the somewhat darker green, not the really light green, those are owned or managed by us as well. And there are docent-led tours throughout the year on those properties as well. Although, of course, everything has changed now with the pandemic, and we are doing a lot of virtual work on social media, YouTube, et cetera, less of the in-person interaction, but I'll let Gavin talk about that a little bit more. But this shows, basically how our preserve system is set up. And I did want to mention that even since shelter in place started in March, we've been able to keep our preserves open 24, well, not 24 hours a day, but 365 days a year. And, from dawn to dusk. And we are able to keep people safe out there. People have been very good about paying attention to the rules. We have set up trails that are one direction so that people can not have to brush by each other as closely. And we require people to stay 6 feet apart outside of the household groups that they would otherwise be in. And people have been good about following those rules. And they're so appreciative of having that opportunity, because since COVID hit in March, we've seen double the normal visitation to our preserves that we normally would. We normally see around 300,000 visitors a year. We're well above 600,000 now and climbing, because, as I'm sure you're aware, and maybe you're feeling the same thing, when people are cooped up and still want to be able to get out but are restricted in what they can do, nature is not only a place where they can be safe if they're spaced from each other out in the preserves, but it's also a place for healing and getting some exercise and just general mental health. So it's been a really important service that we're proud to be able to provide during this crisis.
Mark, I have a question before you leave that slide.
Oh, sure.
You could go back. There's a little section there that I'd like to understand. It's right by Santa Teresa County Park.
Yep.
Below that, it says North Coyote Valley Conservation Area. And then to the right of that red lettering, there's a little green area. What is that?
Yep. That is a very important area. And if you can give me a couple of slides, I have a much better map that shows that zoomed in.
Okay.
And that is a big part of the focus of what we want to talk about with you tonight.
That's really close to us.
It sure is. It's in your backyard, and
yeah,
we're very proud to have you as neighbors. So if you can just give me a few minutes, I'll get there and have a little more focus on it.
Thank you.
And so in general, with all the work that we do, it starts with the land. We are here to protect the land, and certainly the trees and other plants that grow on it, protect the critters, also to take good care of the land. I'll talk more about that in just a second. And a big part of what we do, of course, is connect people to the land as well, whether it's people hiking on our preserves or in urban parks that we support through our grant program. We also are very supportive of agriculture and have protected a number of local farms in a number of ways, and also have programs to get kids out into farmland areas to do projects, including planting trees, etc. All these pictures, of course, taken before COVID, but we continue to have hopes to bring those programs back as soon as we can.
Great picture.
So, thank you. Some of the ways that we care for the watersheds, the wildlife, and the working lands are through land acquisition. So we do buy land, often with our own funding or funding from our partners. And we buy land outright, but we also buy what are known as conservation easements, which are really just the development and subdivision rights from the land. So for instance, if a farmer wants to continue to farm, but never wants to subdivide his or her land, they can sell those development rights to us, benefit from the cash as well as lower property taxes, and continue to own the land. So it stays in private ownership. It's a really good mechanism for us to use that's more cost efficient to the taxpayer and also benefits the farmer or any other person who wants to sell those kinds of rights on their land that has a conservation value to the public. We also steward the lands in many different ways. And again, I'll let Gavin talk about how we employ volunteers to do that. But basically what we do when we acquire land that's been damaged in some way, like if there's contamination or if a stream bed has been altered and is eroding more than it should, we can heal those things and bring it back to a more natural state. That's an important part of the conservation work that we do. We also do a lot of our own initiatives to facilitate research and do studies that help people understand the value of the conservation work that we do and the value of nature to the community. We also have a number of programs to engage the diverse communities that we have throughout our jurisdiction. We have an urban grant program that has provided funding to, well, let's see, we provided over $15 million through those grant programs throughout the area. In particular, I can point out that in or near the Los Paseos neighborhood, we've funded the Joyce Bernal Park, adjacent to Santa Teresa County Park. In 2003, we provided almost $1 million to help develop that park. And then in 2008, we provided over $300,000 to acquire and develop the Albertson Parkway. That's also near Santa Teresa County Park. And, you know, hundreds of other grant programs throughout the jurisdiction, many of them in San Jose, that we've been able to support. We have a very extensive and very successful volunteer program. Again, I'm going to let Gavin talk about that. And then we do our own community outreach and education, which is also a very strong program that we're going to expand greatly as we start doing the public engagement on North Coyote Valley. And again, Greg, I'm going to get to that in just a second here, building up to it. So here's just a small sampling of some of the reports that we've generated. These generate some of, or represent some of the science that we have put together. For instance, in the upper left corner, the Coyote Valley landscape linkage that documents a vision for how wildlife already moved through Coyote Valley and how they could move through Coyote Valley even more unimpeded and support the linkage between Santa Cruz Mountains and the Diablo Range. We've worked with the County of Santa Clara on the Santa Clara Valley Agricultural Plan that maps out priority areas for farmland protection. And we, in 2015, developed the Understanding Our Community report that gives us a lot of information on the very rich diversity we have in our jurisdiction in terms of ethnic, language, economic diversity, as well as some of the barriers that people experience accessing nature, which helps inform us through our grant program and many other initiatives to help people overcome those barriers. a big part of the work that we do is to provide our urban communities with more resilience to climate change. So this picture in the middle, for instance, is the Loma fire that happened in 2016, and the stewardship on our preserves that helped to reduce fuels in some of the forests, helped to protect the community of Morgan Hill from that fire spreading into the residential areas of Morgan Hill. Following that fire, of course, was the big flooding in 2017, and the natural floodplain and hills in and around Coyote Valley especially helped reduce the water flow down Coyote Creek, giving people a little more time to get out of the neighborhoods that were getting flooded and reduce the total amount of water that was down there as well. And then, of course, as I mentioned, during COVID, there are a lot of mental, physical, spiritual benefits to being out on the land that people have been able to take advantage of. This map shows with each of those little acorns in different colors, one of the almost 300 projects that we've completed only since 2014 with funds from Measure Q. So Measure Q is a partial tax that passed in 2014. It provides us with the $24 per parcel, gives us $8 million a year, which is 2/3 of our annual budget. And we put that money to good use and leverage those funds in general 3-to-1, meaning that we get outside funds that are valued at about 3 times what we ourselves put into it to get these 300 community and natural landscape projects completed just in those past 6 years. And then I want to point out, and many of you are probably aware, that Measure T, which was on this November's ballot, passed and extends Measure Q into the future without sunset. So the partial tax didn't go up, it remains the same, but it did extend it, which allows us to do our long-term planning we need to do. And Measure T was approved with 81% approval. It's just an amazing testament to the value that people have in our area for open space and the programs that we do. So Greg, thank you for your patience. I now have up here the map that shows Coyote Valley in a little more zoomed in fashion. And I've indicated on the map here where Los Paseos is, that I'm sure you're all familiar with anyway, but immediately adjacent to Tulare Hill, which is this oval light green area. And then immediately to the south, the North Coyote Valley Conservation Area. So all of these areas that are kind of in this section that's labeled North Coyote Valley, that's what was purchased in November of 2019, so about a year ago, in a partnership between the City of San Jose, Peninsula Open Space Trust, and the Open Space Authority. So those 937 acres cost about $96 million. And because all that land was slated for high-tech industrial campus and still is in the general plan, but they were purchased because it's so critical for wildlife, for the water resource functions that I mentioned, and for public access too, which will be planned out here over the next few years. But I want to point out that the City of San Jose contributed $46 million to that transaction, and they could do that because their Measure T in 2018, that was a $600 million bond measure for infrastructure, included up to $50 million for Coyote Valley natural infrastructure. That's how they were able to put that money in. So for any of those of you who voted on San Jose's Measure T, well, and for that matter, our Measure T this November, thank you. That's what makes things happen. It's really, really important. And then I want to point out that the other areas here in dark green are other lands that have been purchased by the authority and are managed by us. In particular, Fisher's Bend here just south of North Coyote Valley is farmland that we lease to a farmer and will continue to keep that way. And another property just to the south of that as well, 60 acres that was purchased more recently. So we're starting to put the puzzle pieces together. and hope eventually to have a cohesive, larger preserve that has contiguous properties and can connect Fisher Creek, which is this tributary that flows into Coyote Creek up here in the north part of this picture, connect Fisher Creek back to its floodplain and enhance those flood risk reduction properties that Coyote Valley provides. One more thing I'm going to mention here is the Tilton Ranch to the south that's outlined here in orange. That was just recently purchased, and you may have seen some news recently about that. It's an 1,800 acre ranch that will eventually increase the size of our Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve. Right now, it's almost 300 or just over 300 acres. It's going to be a 3,000 acre preserve in a very short period of time. So that's a very exciting acquisition for us as well. So before I go on, I wanted to check here if there are any questions. Certainly Gavin's going to talk more about volunteer and other opportunities that will be coming up in North Coyote Valley. But regarding the landscape and the transactions and all of that, I wanted to just take a little pause and see if anybody had any questions.
Yeah, Mark, this is Andy Machota. Kind of what Greg mentioned earlier with Vanessa was what we talk about, the house on the hill, which is also, is at the very north end of North Coyote Valley. It's kind of where you have the green ends across from Tulare Hill, right before you get to the urban area, pretty much where your cursor is located right there.
Yeah.
There's about, I think it's 17 acres that was for sale that a guy bought, and he's trying to put a huge house right in the middle of there. Question is, are you guys trying to approach the guy and purchase the land from him? Or is there any way the community get involved and help you with that effort? It is a very valuable wildlife corridor. I mean, animals use the culvert right there to go underneath the Santa Teresa Boulevard. And the guy is planning on putting his driveway right next to that. And
right.
So yeah, so we're just kind of interested in what we can do to help out and preserve that land, because it's the only hillside actually that goes east-west on that territory.
Yeah, thank you for the good question, Andy. We are aware of the property, and we've worked with some of the partners who have approached the family to ask them if they'd be interested in selling the property and not developing it. I know the Valley Habitat Agency has attempted to do that and has not been successful. So, you know, and we have made it known that we're always happy to consider important conservation properties for purchase, but we only purchase from willing sellers, of course. We can't force or, you know, push anybody to sell if they don't want to. And I also want to make clear that our role is not to do the sort of grassroots advocacy that other organizations are doing. And I know Sierra Club and Audubon Society and others are doing some of that advocacy work in public meetings, and which, you know, we're honestly happy that they're doing, because people need to know that there are these conservation values at stake. But really, our role as a public agency is, if somebody wants to sell, we'll definitely talk with them and see if we can make funding available. But other than that, there's not much that we can do in that regard.
Mark, I'd like to talk to you maybe after the meeting or next couple of days about that Valley Habitat Agency you talked about. I want to understand a little bit more about them.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Mary had a question.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. I was just wondering.
Before Mary goes on, Andy, do you have any more questions, Andy? Sorry.
Well, it's just kind of along with the city's general plan. I know that particular property also, that culvert is slated in the 2040 plan for San Jose as a wildlife underpass. I mean, it's currently being used by the wildlife now, but I think it was going to be expanded in the 2040 plan. So I don't know how that's impacted by somebody building a house there either.
So I'm not familiar with that exact potential use. I think anything that was connected with the campus industrial development, like expansion of the Bailey Road overpass, anything like that, that would be no longer valid, to my understanding anyway, if the city council votes next summer to accept staff recommendations to change the land use designations there in Coyote Valley to ag and open space. But how that impacts that particular location, I'm not sure, but I can find out and get back to you.
Andy, let's talk with Mark after the meeting next
Okay.
week.
Yeah.
I'll call you and we can arrange a telephone conference call or something.
Okay.
Yeah, happy
Or
to do that.
maybe another little quickie Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. All right,
Well, thank you.
Mary, hi.
Thanks. Mark, how close are we to some kind of critical mass of land acquisition that really gives us a chance to protect the wildlife corridors? Are there still some key parcels that we need? Do you all feel like our habitat have a fighting chance now? It looked, just want your professional opinion about that. Give us some hope, Mark.
Okay. Well, and thanks for the question, Mary. I want to make sure people know I'm not the ecology or biology expert by any means. I'm external affairs, but to my knowledge, the properties that are currently protected already bring us a long way to securing a certain part of the corridor for wildlife movement. There are still barriers, certainly. And if you can see my cursor, the white portions here to the east of what's been protected, and the barriers actually along Monterey Highway especially do impede the movement of wildlife through this area. So there's still a lot of work to be done to further secure that corridor. And of course, there's restoration work to be done too, so that wildlife feel safe moving through those areas more so than they do now. And I mean, I don't want to, not directly answer your question, but it is a matter of degree. It's already better than it was because we've prevented these properties from being converted to industrial uses. But there is more that can be done, especially to the south, because say that these properties immediately to the south went to construction of a warehouse, and then there were so many truck trips every day that went down Santa Teresa or Bailey Avenue. Those would definitely interfere with wildlife movement in that area and would not be supporting the conservation and the wildlife habitat objectives there. So we're hopeful also to see these areas protected. And then, if if I can go into a little bit more detail, the area immediately to the south here is technically urban reserve for the city. So it hasn't yet been annexed by the city, but it's within their sphere of influence. And so it's under county jurisdiction. And, as the city considers its general plan update, they are talking to the county of Santa Clara about doing a clean handoff so that the county sees this as an agricultural resource area, which is compatible with, especially if it's wildlife friendly ag, with wildlife movement here in the north. If all of those things happen, we've got a pretty darn good wildlife corridor secured in this area. And I don't want to say if any one thing doesn't quite go right that we're doomed, right? Because we've already, like I said, we're already a lot better off than we had been when, a industrial campus was being considered or warehouses were being considered up here in the north. But there's more work to be done.
If I could, Mark, I would just interject and offer to Mary and everyone else here just a hearty statement that in the work of conservation, there's a couple things that we're rarely to be found short of. One of those is belief in our work, which this map that's in front of us, is just showing the partial vision of what we see for the future. And earlier, Mark had a slide that showed a lot of the vision documents we presented that go into much greater detail on how our work with various landowners has achieved significant contiguous landscape protection. And when we talk about wildlife corridors and movement, that's a big step in the right direction. And the other thing we're never short on is hope. So, you know, we'll get up tomorrow, be a new batch of hope brewed up, and we'll get out there and keep up the hard work and the good work to achieve more successes like what we're sharing with you on this slide. There's a lot of things for us to all be thankful for on what we're looking at together tonight.
Thank you, Gavin. We really appreciate what you're doing there. Gina's got her hand raised, and after Gina, Gavin, do you have much longer?
We've got a handful more slides, and yeah, we're still here with you, enjoying ourselves.
Okay, got to move along a little bit. Gina?
Okay,
Quick question. Thank you, Greg. Is there two house on a hill issues? Because I thought there was one south, I want to say southwest on this map of Santa Teresa, and that became part of the North Coyote Valley area that was purchased.
And if you're asking me, Gina, I'm only familiar with one right here at the edge of Santa Teresa, at the top of where Santa Teresa goes by Tulare Hill and then comes back down.
Okay, so that may still happen. I thought that was off the table.
Gina, it just reared its head like in the last couple days. Literally in the last couple days, we've got notification that there's some activity on that property again.
Okay, thank you.
We're trying to figure out what's going on.
And Gina, Andy and I will be discussing this further with Mark after the meeting and may get you involved if you'd like. Please send me your email address.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and it sounds like you want us to move along a little bit, so I'm going to just continue here with the slides. And so Gavin, yeah, I think you've got 4 slides here.
Yeah, of course. So Mark's done a great job giving you all a lay of the land in that last slide, talking about North Coyote Valley, and just want to bring a moment back to our minds. Earlier, Mark talked about the mission of the Open Space Authority, and that would be to protect open spaces, natural areas, working farms and ranches for future generations. But a really important part of our mission statement that comes at the very end is, and connect people to nature. And when we say that, I really want to give you an enthusiastic, come on out and join us. We're talking about the volunteer program. That's really where we talk about connecting people to place. And we do have a very active volunteer community, pushing up towards 200 active participants. You may not realize this, but every program that we offer for the public to participate in, whether that's a stewardship event, a docent-led hike, those are all driven by volunteers. That's all folks just like yourselves that take some sense of ownership or excitement and just love to share the outdoors with others. And so really, I'm proud to be the volunteer programs administrator. I get to work with an incredible cross-section of our community. And one of the things that I love to share with you all about our volunteer program is just how it provides a seasonal pulse. Mark, if you don't mind advancing my slides. We have a plethora. Can I advance them? Mark, slide.
Yeah, I'm trying.
One of our most popular programs that we offer every spring is wildflowers on Coyote Ridge. And Mark shared a great map image with us that showed this, but it's right in our backyards. I'm sure there's folks in the room that have been a part of these hikes every spring. Well, every one of those folks that helps put that on, whether they lead a hike, welcome the public, help you get your car parked when you show up, those are all volunteers. And a big ethos of our volunteer program is being gatekeepers, gate openers, not gatekeepers, excuse me. You know, we want to make sure that everybody that comes out to one of our events feels just like a part of the community. And when you have something as exciting as Coyote Ridge every spring to share with the public, it really makes our work of conservation come home. It's not every day that you get to share an endemic species. The bay checker spot butterfly, which calls Coyote Ridge home, is a federally listed endangered species that we've worked hard to have a success story to share with others. All of that is a volunteer opportunity that's just out of your backyard. And I would love to welcome you all to consider taking a look at our volunteer program. There's something that you don't have to go too far to be a big part of our success. Mark, if you'll give me another slide. And as we're here tonight, obviously we want to focus our, any time now, Mark?
Yeah, I don't know why sometimes I can't seem to advance the slides, but I'm trying.
It's COVID.
There we go. Yeah.
You know, obviously you all are interested in North Coyote Valley, and we're really excited about the last, what was a nationally, internationally significant conservation achievement, which Mark told you about, the 937 acres of valley floor, which we were able to acquire last November. Now, obviously COVID has posed some challenges for us, but between acquisition in November of 2019 and March of 2020, we were able to host a veritable plethora of exciting activities that perhaps some of you were a part of. We had 7 different community stewardship days. Actually, Greg, that's what brought us together. Greg and I had some communication in advertising those community stewardship days to the Los Paseos community. That was everything from invasive plant removals to landscape connectivity projects. We had second Saturday bird walks. You know, part of the North Coyote Valley Conservation Area, that is the largest seasonal wetland in our area. And so we were really stoked last winter to be able to host second Saturday bird walks with the Audubon Society. They were among a list of partners that one of the things we're really proud of about North Coyote Valley is that it's such a central location. It's such a huge multi-benefit landscape. It has so much that it can give back to us as a community. And one of the benefits we've seen from that is the partnership it's attracted. And we're really proud that North Coyote Valley, we see as a place moving forward that not only will we be able to have open space authority programs for the public to participate in, to volunteer with, but also folks like Audubon Society or Saved by Nature, environmental volunteers. These are other partners that are really excited to continue offering those kinds of programs to the community in your backyard. So North Coyote Valley is, by all accounts, I would have to say it's the most exciting thing I've been able to work on as a professional and as a coordinator of any kind of program. So I'm really proud to be able to offer things there. Now, as we talk about that, Mark, you can take me to my next slide. Obviously, COVID has posed some challenges for us. And so I just want to let you all know, we continue to operate our volunteer programs. All of our docent-led hikes have been put on the sidelines, but we've continued to work with that section of our volunteer program by offering virtual programs. You might have joined us for one of those. It's very possible. We've also been able to maintain volunteer support for some of our essential services. So we do have ongoing stewardship events. Granted, they're kind of like micro events. It's limited to volunteers that are on file with us and are ongoing. They're not episodic, they're not drop-ins, but they're helping us with preserve maintenance. We've also been able to keep another program, the Trail Masters, active. So we still have a lot going on. COVID has challenged our ability to work with the general public, but we're looking forward optimistically at spring of 2021. And as I showed you a few slides back, you know, wildflowers will be here before we know it. And while I love winter, you know, I look forward to spring, as I said, with optimism and the chance for us to devise ways that we can safely enjoy some of these places in the outdoors together. We have a volunteer intake on February 6th, 2021. We do those via Zoom. It's a couple hours on a Saturday. I actually recognize a name or two in the room with us this evening that have been a part of that. And if any of this is of interest to you, if you've got a passion, you'd like to be an open space ambassador and help us welcome more people to come to know this gem that we call North Coyote Valley, or the surrounding areas, Rancho, Sierra Vista, and Coyote Ridge, then I'd love to have you join us in February. one of the best ways for you all to stay informed on opportunities that we have with the public, whether that be volunteer programs or something that I'm sure you all are interested in, which is the North Coyote Valley public planning process, I would just encourage you to visit our website, openspaceauthority.org. And if you haven't become familiar with that, right off of our homepage, you have event listings. You can register for virtual programs. You can sign up for our volunteer intake. You can get email alerts for the most up-to-date news on the North Coyote Valley public planning process. And you can reach out to folks like Mark and I if you see something that piques your interest and you want to get the inside scoop. So that's what I have to share with you. I'd love to open it up for a few questions. I know we've run a little long, but I'm happy to speak with anyone that has interest. Thanks for sharing that link in the chat, Karen. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I don't see any hands.
I have that effect. It's okay. Wear off and then people will slowly start to ask questions.
Yeah, we might, I mean, just since I don't see any hands and I don't see anything in the chat and we're running quite behind. Yeah, if somebody speak now or hold your peace if you have a question.
No problem. That just means that the presentation covered everything.
Yes, it was a very good presentation.
But sincerely,
it was refreshing. It was very refreshing to see what's going on in Coyote Valley, and I'm definitely going to get more involved myself. Thank you very much for.
Yeah, thanks.
I hope so. I look forward to having you, Greg. And I think Mark and I both understand there's some interest in an auxiliary issue. So we'll look forward to an opportunity maybe to circle back with you all in the coming days and provide some further information on that. Totally appreciate the interest there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, very much appreciate the invite.
Very welcome. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.
So are we going to move on to HomeFirst, or we're going to do Captain Elle? Who are we doing next?
HomeFirst, are you okay if we do hi, Captain Elle, how are you on time?
I'll probably need to get it done sooner than later because I have to prepare for midnight briefing. So, and I don't want to cut people off if they have questions. So if I could squeeze in and get her done, that would be appreciated.
Yep, let's do that then.
I'll make it quick too.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Okay, great. First of all, I'm going to apologize if I stumble on my words. I had my first community meeting at 9 a.m. this morning and I haven't stopped since. So I'm running on fumes at this point, but I was asked to pull some stats together for not only LPNA, but Silverleaf as well as Basking Ridge. I don't know if you have any members present tonight from those specific neighborhoods. I do know one of my lieutenants attended a Basking Ridge community meeting at 6 o'clock. So I don't know if they're here or they had their own meeting, Greg, but do you know one way or the other?
I think they had their own meeting.
Okay, all right. So let's go kind of macro and then micro, and then we'll get into any specific questions or topics that you want to talk about that I can answer questions to. First thing, what I'm going to do is just report on D2 as a whole. That's at macro level. And I had to pull stats for reporting out for the last quarter to the chiefs, which I did on Monday. And then also I put together a quarterly report for the council offices. So what I did is I looked at the months of September and October. The reason I did 2 months is, you know, I report routinely to LPNA, but I wanted to make sure I was inclusive, and, you know, we're not quite through this month yet. So if we're just understand that this picture in time is for the months of September and October. If you look at District 2, during that time frame, we had approximately 3,855 calls for service. That could be everything from hearing loud music to a suspicious person. So out of the 3,855 calls, we had about 92 arrests. Now, again, that's District 2, district-wide, not in the entire Southern Division, because I have 1/4 of the city, but just for District 2. If you look at the same time period last year, it's about the same. We were looking at 3,804 calls for service, resulting in 97 arrests. So I think the takeaway from that for D2 is just year to year, September, October, we're on par. if we look at the Los Paseos Neighborhood Association for that same time frame, we had approximately 153 calls for service this year. Out of that 153 calls for service, that resulted in 3 different arrests. And there were 0 additional reports taken. So what this tells me is it's a very active neighborhood association. You're vigilant, you're reporting, nuisance activity, you're reporting suspicious or criminal activity. It's just, the good news is that not only are you vigilant, but out of the 153 times that you phoned the police in 2 months, it resulted in 3 arrests. So a lot of those are going to be something that there wasn't, a victim of a crime, or we weren't able to verify there was a crime, but it does show that you're calling the police department, which is a good thing. Same time last year, you had about 156 calls for service and 2 arrests. So very, very similar numbers from year to year. Again, same time frame from last year to this year is really, really on par. If you look at the type of calls that we had, they're really, I was looking at kind of themes, right? And there were a lot of alarm calls, suspicious people. I think we had 2 commercial burglaries on major thoroughfares, 2 stolen cars, and 1 assault that took place at a business. So that's for your specific neighborhood association. I was asked to pull the Silverleaf stats, and same time frame, again, very comparable. This year in the Silverleaf neighborhood, there were 65 calls for service with 1 arrest. Last year, there were actually 85 calls for service and 3 arrests. So it does look like the calls for service and the resulting arrests did go down a slight bit. And I think it was the same for Basking Ridge. Last year to this year, actually the same number of calls for service, which was 24, with 0 reports this year and 0 arrests. And last year, there are actually 6 reports taken and 0 arrests. So last year they had a car break-in, a forgery case. So in general, there's a trend of a slight reduction in the calls for service, or things are more or less on par or status quo, just general, speaking in generalities. And then just one thing I wanted to report on, this again is division-wide, so this is really big, Southern Division, which is the largest of the 4 divisions. We did have an opportunity this last quarter to increase our moving violations, so we actually doubled those from 144 to 288. So I was very happy about that, because we have had a lot of complaints and concerns about traffic enforcement, which maybe there's going to be questions about that. But we have had a concerted effort, and you can see that at least for the quarter, we were able to double those moving violations. So that's a good sign. We want people to slow down and drive safely. That's my report. Like I told you, it would be fast. It was rather quick. So if I need to revisit something, please let me know. But I'm also here to answer any questions that you might have or concerns. Bridge housing might have been one of them, but we can get to that.
I have a question. I think there was a murder over by the
extended stay hotel.
Yeah. And did they ever, whatever happened with that?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. We actually had 2 homicides, which is very alarming. One was August 28th. The second one was September 29th. And the first one had a nexus to gang members. There was a stabbing in the parking lot. The second one we think was drug related. That was inside the hotel. The second one, they made an arrest in that case. And I think in the first one, they have identified suspects, and they're very close to making an arrest, the homicide unit. This is stemming from just some issues that are taking place at that hotel. And it was my professional opinion, it had a lot to do with a lack of safety measures that was attracting criminal element from outside the area. And I actually worked with the city attorney's office, and we sent the property owners and managers a cease and desist letter, and basically told them they had 30 days to clean up their act. We were going to go to court and get an injunction to require them to do so. But they have been extremely responsive. We had a Zoom with them, and they implemented a lot of safety measures right away. Because they're East Coast, they were unaware that a lot of these problems were taking place. And so it's just a matter of working together to clean it up. I know I sent my officers in there, and in 10 days, I had 4 different gun seizures, probation violations, warrants. I mean, it was a really unfortunate attraction to criminal elements. So I haven't had any major cases out of there since. I am hopeful that they are going to follow through, and if they don't, then we'll be seeing them in court. But so far, they've been very responsive, and hopefully we won't see that type of criminal activity again at that hotel.
Let's see if there's any hand. Anybody else have any questions? If you can put your little hand up is the easiest way to see.
Denny?
Hi, Captain. Good evening. Thanks for staying on so late.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to, Greg and I chatted a little bit about this 2 days ago, and this was with regards to the speeding and racing along Monterey Highway,
Mhm.
north and southbound, approximately at the intersection of Bernal Road. I can do a quick screen share. So, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. The host is blocked out, but Monterey Highway, so right around Bernal, at the overpass. So I live adjacent to the train tracks that run parallel to the highway. And you can hear, guys just accelerating at high rates of speed, et cetera. And I wanted to see if there's anything we could do as a community to mitigate that, both the noise and also the safety as a concern.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's so I'm going to put under the umbrella of traffic, right? And we have been experiencing high frequency of sideshow activity. And when I say sideshow activity, I'm including in that the burnouts, the drag racing, taking over of intersections, any and all illegal vehicle activity that's done in groups like that. Monterey Highway is one of those areas, especially down south, where we do see a lot of that type of activity. And we have been responding to it. We have been going out with a lot of our patrol officers, especially when it happens. Fortunately for us, there's an overlap between swings and midnights, and we're able to take our teams and go out and effect basically enforcement on them. It's a very tricky thing to do because sometimes we'll have anywhere from 400 to 1,000 cars, and I'm sending 30 officers into an area. And just in the last month, we've been met with pretty significant violence from some of the people in the group, throwing very large, heavy objects. I've had 3 windshields and police cars broken out. I had a sergeant whose car was surrounded. We've seized guns from some of the people involved in the sideshows. I mean, not everybody is of that violent or criminal element. A lot of them are just bored teenagers that grew up with the Fast and Furious generation. And I think COVID fatigue, has a lot to do with it because there's nothing else constructive for them to do. But we have been responding. We have some covert tactics. It's just a fancy way of saying undercover, and how we're responding to observe the violations. And then we'll move in to make a car stop when it's safe to do so. And actually, if they flee from us and we've captured the license plate, we're able to go in and seize their vehicle after the fact. So when we do impound the car, that's the best thing for us, because they'll lose the car for 30 days, it's several $1,000s, and that's the best deterrent. And actually last weekend, we were able to get in front of it enough such that they put out on their, social media platform, San Jose is too hot, go home. And so that's what we really want is to prevent it from happening to begin with. But the problem is bigger than the resources that we have, and we have to do it safely. It's not just a simple, going into an intersection and trying to pull a car over. It's not even safe to do that for officers. So as far as residents go, if you hear it, certainly report it. But we're well aware of all the hot spots in the city. What I don't want people to do is, if they see it in their neighborhood, to go out and start filming to capture that information. Maybe you're trying to get footage or a license plate, because someone in the Amadon Valley about a week ago did just that, and they were assaulted by one of the spectators. I think they went to grab their phone and push them. And like I said, there's just an unpredictable nature. And so we always want to prioritize safety first. Certainly if you see sideshow activity, I would just call 911 and let us know. And, like I said, a lot of these major thoroughfares we're well aware of, and we're doing our best to get in front of it. So in the short term, we're addressing it that way. In the long term, I think we're trying to send a message, don't come to San Jose for the sideshow activity. We're gonna find you, we're gonna catch you, and we're gonna tow your car. And that's where it hurts. We're also, as far as traffic enforcement goes, right, today council went to PISFIS, and actually the department went to council, the PISFIS, the public safety session, to recommend the increase in our motor officers. So a city of 1.1 million people, we have, I think, 10 or 11 motor officers. It really should be a much higher than that, maybe even fourfold, because we don't have the coverage all the time. We have a very young department. I have 0 officers in my division that are trained in radar. I can't even have an officer go out and sit up on the expressway. And that's a problem. And so we're putting together an interest list right now. We're working with council to buy more radar guns to get officers out there to do that type of enforcement. So, there's a lot of things under that traffic umbrella. I think what you're speaking to is just the illegal activity at night. We're aware of it, we're addressing it, and we're doing the best we can to solve that problem. But the long-term, long-lasting solution takes a little bit of time. It's that surgical kind of response to gathering the information and finding them and trying to do it safely and then towing the car. So sideshows, I talk about that one in every community meeting. It's a big problem.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a strategy and you're working on implementing it.
Yeah. And some of it, I try not to always advertise all of our tricks, because the last thing I need is for those, trade secrets to get out, and then it goes out on their social media. And then, if I had guys showing up to sideshows with their license plates covered, I don't know what I do, because we're a lot of times, like I said, if we attempt to pull you over and you flee, that's 2800 of the vehicle code. It's a felony. So therefore we attach a vehicle seizure warrant to your car. So you could be in another county a month later and CHP runs your plate. You're going to lose your vehicle subsequent to that search warrant. That is the tool that we have for the 30-day impound. So right now, they're driving around with their license plates attached. They start taking their license plates off. We're going to have to go back to the drawing board. It's this cat and mouse game, right? Tom and Jerry. And so that's kind of where we're at. So we're in a sweet spot right now. We have a good strategy. And we definitely have supportive counsel and the department to prioritize traffic safety now that we're kind of beyond a lot of the civil unrest and protests in San Jose. So that has been our focus.
Got it.
For sure.
Of increasing officer safety, what about like stationary cameras or mobile cameras that can tow on things like that of nature? So you don't have to have an officer there present, to make sure that you guys are safe.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I actually had a conversation, I think earlier this week, with Councilmember Sergio Jimenez about that. I know one of the things he's doing in his, I think, second term or in his current term is to improve the Monterey corridor, the safety of the Monterey corridor specifically. And he asked me a lot of questions about installing cameras. I'm still researching it. I'm not a traffic expert. Some of the issues we have with that is, my understanding, and I have to confirm this, is that the violations need to be observed by a police officer. So we can arrest for a felony not committed in our presence, but we have to actually observe the misdemeanor criminal activity in order to make an arrest or accept a private person's arrest. So a camera, I don't think will suffice. The only reason we can tow the cars is because that's actually a felony. When you flee, that's a felony, and an officer can actually, seize something subsequent to that because it's a felony not committed in their presence. So there's different nuances in the law. So we're trying to determine, are putting cameras on Monterey gonna get the benefit that they need? And so that's why he came to me asking a lot of these traffic related questions. So, and then also, if somebody were to dump trash and the camera were to capture the license plate, can then the city attorney's office investigate and prosecute? Or again, is that a misdemeanor not committed in an officer's presence, whereby that's not sufficient physical evidence to then investigate or prosecute? So those are some of the things we're looking at. Cameras can be useful to back up or corroborate an officer's original observations. We have had that where an officer saw something, lost the vehicle, or maybe it fled, and then he went to a nearby gas station, checked their footage, and they captured it, and he got the license plate. But again, he had originally seen it, and then he was just, corroborating something. So that was different. So just the standalone camera may not be enough, I guess is my point. So we have to kind of look at that from different perspectives, as it's rather nuanced.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, we may not need to go for the home run with the misdemeanor or the 30-day impound. At the minimum, a speeding ticket would offer some level of deterrence in terms of, like a red light camera, for example, hopefully that type of moving violation.
Yeah, for sure. I think something like that would be useful. Absolutely. I mean, and just high visibility sometimes is enough to deter. It's when you get, 100 plus cars together, you get the mob mentality where a lot of logic and reason goes out the window. But for the most part, an individual, when you can break them off from the herd and you get them by themselves, typically, a citation is enough. And I don't know if I mentioned, I maybe said it in the last community meeting, but last weekend we actually got the host of the sideshow and he got a ticket. I don't know if his car got impounded, and he ended up blasting out on his social media platform, "San Jose's too hot, go home." And so, that's what we want. We want them not even coming into San Jose, or if they come in, we're there waiting for them. Everywhere they went, we're waiting for them. And then they finally gave up and left. Yeah. I think the rain will help mitigate that in the coming months, but it's a problem that's not going to totally go away.
Thanks, Captain.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Denny. Captain, I'm going to be talking to you. Maybe I think it would be neat to have you give a presentation to all the neighborhood associations, just as one meeting on safety. Maybe we can work out, you do that like once every 2 months or a quarter or something.
Yeah, I know I did a
You wouldn't
Facebook
You wouldn't
stream
go to
with,
everybody's neighborhood association meeting.
yeah, I did one with Councilmember Camus in District 10. It was on Facebook and it was a
Okay.
live stream and it might have been recorded. So
Okay.
yeah, I think going forward, that's something we could look at.
right.
Yeah, or at least record it and then
Yeah.
send the link. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Captain. We need
I do see one, I just see one real quick, very, very, very quick question. Please just answer it very quickly. Somebody's asking, are home break-ins being investigated? They feel like theirs was broken into years ago and they were told that they're not getting investigated.
If it was 6 years ago, it's
No. I think what they're saying is, did that policy change to that they are getting investigated now?
I think it just depends. We still don't have proper staffing. So no, not all of them are getting investigated. I think if they have DNA collected, prints collected, surveillance cameras that might have captured images or a plate, something that's going to give the police department a lead. But when you don't have evidence or a lead and you have an understaffed unit, the reality is likely no. I mean, not all of them. I don't know what the percentage is. You know, and one of the challenges we do have is we are arresting people for burglary and they're out on bail for burglary. There's zero bail at the jails. You know, there's a lot of felonies aren't being tried right now. So there's a lot of things working against us, but as it relates specifically to the burglary unit, we're still understaffed. We're still one of the lowest staffed major cities in the nation per capita.
Okay.
Not an excuse. I mean, it's unacceptable. I agree. I wish it were different, but those are the facts right now.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We gotta move on to the final presentation. And
no problem. And then if you have any questions, you guys could always email them to me via Greg or your council, not your council. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm tired. Your board, and I'll be happy to respond to those.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess it's time for HomeFirst presentation, and we do apologize for being so far behind to James and his team. James, do you want to go ahead and start introducing your team and what you were going to talk to us about, you know, giving us an update on the bridge housing and at Rue Ferrari in Monterey and Bernal?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to try to share this PowerPoint.
Oh, Greg, you might need to make him co-host.
I think I already did, but let me, if I
This
did.
is host disabled.
Remember he left and came back in. So you have to do it again.
There you go.
Does anybody else on your team need to be co-host?
No.
Okay.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm wondering if I can make that a little bigger.
Yeah,
so
you go up to slideshow up there. Up, click on slideshow. Over, a little bit to the left. The menu that says slideshow.
I don't see it saying slideshow.
I'll try to hit F5 and that'll start it too.
Do what?
F5.
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 F5. No.
Down right below your right the picture that you have emergency interim housing. There is the thing where it says notes. You see notes?
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Go all the way over to the right one.
Right there, right there.
Right there. Click that one.
Okay.
There we go.
That's much better.
Yep.
So thanks for having us. We're here to talk about emergency interim housing, which is in your all's neighborhood. My name is James Henderson. I'm the Associate Director of Support Services for HomeFirst. I oversee the EIH as well as the bridge housing communities. And I have on here with me Jameer Crawford, who is the Program Director of Emergency Interim Housing Bernal, and Ryan Sanders, who's the Program Director or Program Manager of Ferrari. So HomeFirst is the leading shelter service in Santa Clara County. We provide shelter to approximately 5,000 houseless people per year. You know, our ultimate goal is for all the people that we shelter to get into housing. And that's in accordance with the city and the county's plan. So as we all know, we're living through COVID, and you know, the CARES Act provided $2 billion to the state of California to shelter or house or create programs for homeless people. What we know about this population is that due to their lack of ability to get, you know, take care of their hygiene and living in close quarters, and a lot of them are dealing with chronic disease, you know, other ailments, that hitting this population would be devastating to the lives of these folks, but also would creep out into the rest of the community. And I guess we're all aware in Santa Clara County, we just hit purple, so things aren't going in the right direction. We are trying to prevent the spread of this as best we can. Emergency interim housing provides temporary non-congregate shelter to people who are, let me move this, to people as a COVID response. The average participants that we deal with are dealing with a chronic health condition. Many are elderly. So these are the risks that are, you know, most vulnerable to catching COVID. So we help all the people that have come to our shelter. We're working with the county Office of Supportive Housing to, they put, can't think of the number, I think 2,000 people into motels right when COVID hit. Now this vulnerable population, now that that's been about 9 months and become very costly, and the motels want to start operating as they're intended to do. They're moving the people from the motels into our community, our interim housing community. So the EIH takes COVID precautions to ensure the safety of participants and staff. So if right now we aren't allowing anybody to enter the community unless you know, a service worker for one of our participants can come and work with the participants. We also have done some tours. I know I met Greg at one of the tours. I also Captain Elle has been to our site a couple times. The governor came, the mayor's been there, but generally we try to keep the place closed off to as many people as possible, because the more people we have, the more susceptible, you know, it could be that COVID is, you know, creeping into our community. Anybody that comes to our comes to the IH has to have their temperature taken. At the door, they ask if they've had any coughs, any fevers, any respiratory infections, colds, or whatever. So HomeFirst job, and, you know, and what we are trying to do at the EIH We offer outreach. Our intention is that through the supportive services that we provide, people will be able to find housing and employment and financial security of some sort. Because the ultimate goal is that people can move out into permanent housing and maintain that on their own. With COVID, we aren't pushing people out, but post-COVID, we will be giving people a 60-day time limit, but they'll be connected to services that can help them move into permanent housing. And that's the ultimate goal. But right now, dealing with the vulnerable population, we are allowing people to stay there as need be. So at the Bernal site, we have 78 total units, and currently we have 67 participants, and we'll probably be full, I don't know, in a week or two. We're having some issues with transportation that I'll get to in a few minutes. At the Rue Ferrari site, we have 108, well, not units, we can hold 118 people. Our tentative open date is mid-December. The difference with Rue Ferrari holding more people is we accept couples. So that everybody has to be over 18, but that might be, an intimate partner couple. It could be, a mom and a child. It could be, the caregiver, but the child would also have to be over 18. So we have space for 30 couples. And then these units also, both sites also have ADA units that are a little bigger for people in wheelchairs or other types of serious conditions to where they need bigger space and some more help around the house. They have guardrails and handlebars and stuff like that to hold on to within the unit. We operate 365 days a year. We have, we're 24/7 and we have 3 shifts a day. During the day, we have a program manager, a clinician for therapeutic services, a case manager, 4 resident advocates, and 4 security guards. On the other shifts, instead of the program manager, we have a supervisor and a case manager and the 4 resident advocates. I think overnight, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Jameer, but overnight, I believe we have 4 resident advocates, a supervisor, 2 security guards. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, James.
So the unofficial cost, Greg asked me what the cost was. So I contacted the city today. This is mostly funded through dollars provided to California through the CARES Act. And the unofficial cost to date is $7.5 million. They don't have an exact number, so they told me that. So each unit, when you break that down to 78 units, you're looking at about $96,000 a unit. A unit looks like this. Everybody has a cot and some storage, a lamp, trash bin. These units also have a full bath. They have a toilet, sink, and shower in every unit. For the ADA units, they're a little bigger bathrooms. Everybody that moves in gets a welcome kit, and when you come in, when they're dropped off, all their stuff has to go through a hot box, which is I don't know the exact temperature. Do you know, Jameer, what the temperature is, or Ryan?
It's like 700 to, it's between 700 and 600.
Yeah, so it kills any kind of bugs, bacteria, viruses, or anything. People are allowed to bring 2 bags in, 2 full bags. Outside of that, they have to, if they bring, sometimes we have people bringing a whole bunch of stuff because they've been camped out in a motel for a long time and collected things. We give them a couple days to decide what they want and get rid of the rest. The laundry unit, we have, is it six? I think it's 8 laundry machines, stackable, and then we have one that's ADA, though that's not stackable. The reason we have the big X's on them is that's for social distancing. So we don't want to use them all at once, just during the current time. We want to make sure that if 2 people go there in the same time, they have that space in between them. These can be used from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. From 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. we have quiet hours. So, you know, I mean, people, we don't want to make a lot of noise. You know, people like to sleep, so we don't want neighbors interrupting their other neighbors. We have a dog run, so this area off here to the left is everybody's allowed to have 1 pet. And, you know, that's generally a dog. And so they have some area to run around and hang out. And that gets used pretty frequently. This is about half of our kitchen. It's all we could fit in the thing. You can notice that the tables are all social distance. We have 3 refrigerators, 2 full range and stove and oven. And then this back door that you see is a pantry. HomeFirst provides, gets donations for food. And so on one wall you have donated food that a resident advocate will, you know, let somebody go in there and decide what they want. And then on the left wall, people can have their own items. So they have a little box where they put their own personal food. They also have space in the refrigerators to put their own personal items. We also, we don't have to, but we've been able to provide lunch, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Every day we get donations from one of our, and extra food from one of our other shelters. So they drop off breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the people that want them. We also have a computer lab. The case managers will help people learn computer skills. They'll teach them how to look for housing, how to look for employment. We also have an employment board and opportunities on how to get jobs. We teach those skills. We also have workshops throughout the day provided by, you know, whoever specializes in whatever. We have a whole plethora of opportunities and workshops. Anything ranging from like mental health to, you know, daily living skills. You know, we might have like a nutritional food demonstration, or coping skills group, or employment group, or housing group. You know, things that you might need to know moving into housing about how to follow a lease and what those types of things are. And living in this community, people start, you know, having that roof over their head and having their own little place, start developing those skills about, you know, how to keep your place tidy. We do weekly room checks and make sure that people aren't, you know, trying to bring in more than they can have. We don't allow, you know, food to sit around and rot in somebody's room or anything like that. So they're learning those skills that they're going to have to know when they move into permanent housing. We also have a conference room. This is where we have our meetings. We have a pass down meeting for every shift to let the shift prior know about any, you know, successes or concerns that happen throughout the day. We also have regular team meetings and Zoom meetings and all of that. as far as transportation, I know that was a concern. We just this past week, the city gave us 16 spots on the street. I guess they're open to anybody in the public, but we are the ones that were able to work with the city to make that happen, work with VTA. We currently don't have a bus stop close, and a lot of our people have mobility issues, so we're providing taxi vouchers to and from the nearest bus stop so people can make sure that they're attending their medical appointments or what other important appointments they may have. In February, VTA will be putting a bus stop in front of the unit, or in front of the community. At Rue Ferrari, we have approximately 40 parking spaces. That will probably be a little more than that once everything's, painted up and figured out. And it's close to a bus stop. So surprisingly enough, transportation has been an issue around cars because most of these folks seem to have cars. So we were on a pause until we got these extra parking spots on the streets because, people wanted to come with their vehicles. And, without the vehicle, moving in wasn't really an option. So it was really important that we have this parking. I know there's understanding concerns around vagrancy, vandalism, and theft throughout your community. And, a lot of people have those feelings about the homeless population. We haven't seen a whole lot of people just being vagrant and hanging out in front of the unit. Pretty much all their needs are met within the community. So there's not a whole lot of reason to just kind of hang out. And a lot of our folks, due to, chronic conditions like hypertension or mobility issues due to, hip problems and knee issues and stuff like that, they aren't really up to getting out and walking around. With theft, I think, I don't really foresee this going to be an issue within your community. For one, they know that they aren't allowed to have very much stuff in their unit, and if they do, they're going to have to get rid of it. And that's just, a hygiene concern for us. So they know if they start bringing in too much stuff, they're going to have to get rid of it. I would be more concerned, and not that I want to put a target on the homeless population on the other side of the railroad tracks. I don't want to accuse them of anything, but I think one of the analogies I use are, somebody maybe has a tarp on top of their boat. Somebody that is living outside that needs some shelter is going to take that tarp, whereas a tarp wouldn't be allowed in our facility. So that's most of it. You can ask as many questions and answers. We'll provide all the answers we can. Jameer and Ryan also are the ones that are kind of on the ground day to day, overseeing everything. So anybody have any questions?
James, I see a couple questions in the chat. There's a couple comments about the hot box and whether, 700 degrees seems like it might melt clothes and stuff. We could figure out what the actual degrees is. It's just meant to be hot enough to kill bacteria, I believe. Right? Yeah.
Well, the only thing that goes in there is their anything like clothing, no metal, no
plastic.
No plastic. We only take things that that like termites or whatever were, stuff, bed bugs that they really hang on to, like fleece and clothing and stuff like that.
Right. So there's also a possibly more of a comment from Denny that it sounds like you're painting everyone who lives at the shelter as physically disabled, and that's the reason why there would be no vandalism.
So a lot of our clients participants that live at our shelter. Currently right now, we're with the county in the COVID hotels. And we're at risk for COVID. Most of them have mobility issues. Some of them don't. So with that being said, though, a lot of, like James said, a lot of their issues are met there. But at the same time, we can't predict like who's going to do what. A lot of clients right now that we have don't seem interested in that kind of stuff right now. But who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we can't vouch for everybody and say that nobody's gonna get up to mischief, but so far with the population, people just seem to hang around and stay there. They don't really get out and loiter and bother people. You know, a lot of times when you're dealing with, you know, elderly folks, they're just kind of, they've been there, they've done all that, and now they just kind of want to settle, you know, and when they settle some of these other conditions, you start noticing things like, oh, you know, this hurts, or I'm not as flexible as I used to be, because they're moving out of a survival mode into a more settled mode. And that's when some of these other things that you didn't notice on the streets kind of start arising.
Yeah. I think the concern is, okay, well, once the COVID is over and we move to a different population, is that going to change? I think that was kind of the point they were getting to.
What we're doing about that is, I'm not for sure how familiar you all are with the VI SPDAT and the score range. You all know what that is?
I would say a lot of people here don't know what that is. I'm familiar with it.
A quick rundown would be 0 to 3 are folks that are homeless that don't really need a whole lot of services. They might need a little leg up, and we have some funding that we can help with them, but they should be able to find housing on their own and minimal support. 4 to 7, you would get a rapid rehousing voucher, and that's kind of like the mid-range of needing support. So anything 7 and below are going to be the folks that are more likely to live on their own, take over a full rent. So they're in as high risk. Once you start going over that, like 8+, those folks are looking at a permanent supportive housing program, and they have a lot more issues and need a lot more support and a lot more help that would be going on. But the way we're looking at this, and the way our bridge housing communities are working right now, is we're working with the 0 to 7 population. So everybody will be linked with a housing case manager when we move on past COVID. And then the folks 0 to 3, we'll just provide them some support and some housing flex funds to kind of move in and move out. It would be there. It's looking, you know, a 60-day range would pretty much be, you know, the cutoff. Somebody's working really hard, and, you know, they're about to move into a place. Of course, we're going to give them an extension until that can happen. But, you know, our job is not to put people back on the street. But, you know, we're looking at this moving pretty rapidly in and out once COVID's passed.
So what's the average stay about now?
The average stay right now, there is no average stay right now because of COVID.
Oh.
But when COVID or when you get the green light, it will be 60 days.
I see. Okay.
And we have found, you know, a couple people are really looking for housing. A couple people have plans of moving out. But with this vulnerable population, they're just kind of there until the city gives the green light to say, you know, COVID's kind of going away. Let's start putting a time limit on it.
Okay. There's another question here from Gina. I've noticed a lot more homeless activity in the area of Santa Teresa and Bernal. These people may not be EIH residents, but I suspect that the presence of the EIH shelters projects our area as a homeless-friendly neighborhood. Is anything being done to increase police presence as we introduce these centers?
Well, we've talked to Captain Elle. She's been to our unit a couple times. So is her sergeant and another officer. They've also toured the Ferrari site, and it's pretty much, they've kind of told us about why you would, why to contact the police. We can't tell anybody not to contact the police, and we have had some people, we'll try to de-escalate if somebody has a situation, but if they want to call the police, they will do that. We haven't had any situation that we have had to call the police within our community. There hasn't been any friction that we couldn't handle, any kind of outburst, anything like that. So if there's more police presence in the community, that would be a question for Captain Elle and how they want to respond to it.
Okay. Denny had a question. I think it's been answered because he asked settled mode ? I thought there was a time limit of 60 days for occupancy, but I think that's been answered in the sense that that's kind of on hold during COVID, but after COVID is winding down, then it will go to the 60 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody, let me see if there's any hands raised.
Denny's hands raised.
Whose?
Denny.
Denny, did you have another question?
I did, thanks.
Okay.
Providing a lot of the answers and great presentation. So as a good steward to the community, what can be done in terms of a lot of the excess garbage and trash that tends to collect in that area? I did a quick walkthrough today and noticed that it's gotten worse. Greg and I talked a little bit about this 2 days ago. I have some photos. I shared that with Greg, put that in a short slide deck with 4 or 5 slides with the 4 intersections of Bernal and Monterey Highway. And there is a homeless encampment just across the street, and that doesn't necessarily, I mean, take it for what it's worth. I mean, it's there. And so what can be done to mitigate that?
So we at EIH are HomeFirst. We deal with homelessness, and that's kind of our area of expertise. The people in the encampment across from the highway from us don't have anything to do with us. And we're only taking referrals from the county to fill those COVID hotels. But we do have an outreach team. I don't know how far that our outreach team extends, but they are the ones that kind of go out and talk to people and try to offer them services. Maybe as a goodwill gesture, James can bring that to the outreach team attention and see.
Yeah, I've thought about that. They wouldn't be able to move into our unit as of now. That's something we could definitely look at later.
Yeah.
I know we're doing some of that with the BHC units. As far as the litter, I mean, I personally haven't noticed it. I know that we clean up a lot and residents help clean up within our gates, but we could probably look at how much litter is happening and see if it's coming from us, and maybe offer some incentives to see if people want to help clean up. I know at one of our units, we have a whole team of folks at our big shelter on Little Orchard, and there's a team of people that go out there and clean up and pick up litter and stuff like that. So, and that could be something we could look at. I know Downtown Streets team, which is another homeless organization, offers jobs and incentives. So, I mean, there's some opportunities there, and I think our staff can kind of look at that as well.
Okay, that sounds good. Looking forward to what you guys can commit to, improving the neighborhood, or at least getting the neighborhood back to what it was.
So Chris Andre has a question about, is the community taking direct food and clothing donations?
We do have an outreach coordinator at our site and at New Ferrari who does deal with donations and arranges all that.
Okay.
And we also encourage community insight and people that want to talk with us on an ongoing basis. You know, maybe a representative from your organization might want to do something like that. But within the next month or so, we'll start having regular meetings and let you all know when that's happening. If you want to send a representative, or she's going to be outreaching to all the businesses, the larger community as a whole, to see who wants to be involved.
So is that going to be different than the advisory group that Greg and I are on?
I believe so. I believe it's like a really big community thing. Some of our residents will be.
Yeah, it'd be the same one, Karen.
Oh, it will be.
Okay.
I mean, it won't be the same one, but it will be
similar
like that. We'll have an OSC and a advisory group, a bag meeting as well.
Okay.
It's not with Jessica, it's with a different person.
Okay. I had a question about, you know, as the holidays are approaching, do you guys do any, like, I guess we would just, do you guys do any gift bags for the residents or anything like that that we could donate to?
So that will be our resident, our outreach resident person, our coordinator, who would once again take on stuff like that. I think right now they're getting like holiday meals, and we're doing some like cookie decorations and stuff for them. Holidays for our population, some people don't have good memories of the holidays. So we're working very closely with our mental health and our clinician team to kind of make everybody feel good, put it that way.
And what's the person, like, if we do want to reach out and ask, you know, if we'd be able to participate, who was that again?
Her name is Jillian. I can send, if you give me your email, I can send you her email address.
Okay, or do you want to put her email in the chat? Is that appropriate? Do you know
I can do that.
Yeah. What's her email? Or do you want to?
I'll put it in the chat for you guys.
Okay, you put it in the chat for us. Great.
I have two questions.
Okay, go ahead.
My first question is it true that the residents have to have any guests? They have to leave by 10 o'clock at night?
Currently, we aren't allowing any guests, but yeah, when COVID's gone, they will be allowed to have one guest, and yes, they will have to leave by 10 o'clock.
Okay, so currently they don't have guests. And then my second question is, when will you know the average daily cost of this program?
That would be a question for the city, and they haven't come up with those numbers yet.
So I mean, we're throwing a lot of stuff out there, and so it's carte blanche, and then they'll scale back. Where I'm going with this is that it really sounded like, you know, there's a lot of issues here that are going to be addressed, you know, like maybe the bus stop down the street. Maybe we won't have so many issues with, you know, people being able to get in and out of there, because obviously too, if maybe they'd have somebody come pick them up, take them to work or whatever. But it sounds like there's a lot of issues that are preventing you or your staff from really doing their job.
What I can address as far as the cost is having somebody in shelter is a lot cheaper than having them on the street, because when people are on the street, they don't have a place to go when they're sick. So they show up at the ER, which costs thousands of dollars that taxpayers ultimately end up having to pay. There's, you know, they get arrested and spend time in jail, which is also expensive. So when you have people in shelter, you see a lot of these things, even mental health issues decrease. There's a lot of information about this. If you want to look at like the United Way website and look at like cost benefit analysis or opportunity cost of homeless housing. I think as far as what we're slated to do, as far as our job, I think we're carrying that out as planned. We are involved with the community. We're involved with the city's outlook on things. So, and I think what our responsibilities are, we're fulfilling.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Oh, I see Denny has one. Was there a budget put together for EIH? 7.5 million spent so far. What was the intended daily budget per housing unit at the start of the project?
I don't know what the intended start budget was. A lot of those financial questions, about the day-to-day has to deal with the city. The grant budget was slated for 17 million, I believe.
For all 3 sites, correct?
Correct.
Do you think they would have that daily cost for the Mayberry site? Although it's slightly different purpose, but do you think they'd have that by now?
They might, and I could ask the city that. Greg asked me the question today, so I shot the question out to the city, and what they said is, we don't have anything official, but this is what I'm going to give you, and that can work for now until we come up with the exact numbers.
Okay. Yeah, if we could get something to present to the neighborhood, in terms of answering those questions. I think the Mayberry would be, even though it's operating at a slightly different purpose, it was more interim housing versus emergency shelter. That would be a good number to have.
Well, this would have played out exactly like Mayberry would have had COVID not arrived.
Exactly.
And I know the city didn't do a good job preparing and answering the questions for the surrounding communities. They just kind of put stuff up without getting all that insight, because COVID happened and that was the direction they took.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good information. Thank you. Anybody have any more questions?
Yes,
Otherwise,
Karen, I do.
okay, Greg does. Go ahead.
Remember when this was all presented to us that there was going to be some sort of an outreach by the HomeFirst that would go out into certain streets in the neighborhood? You even had a map showing the various streets that you were going to go check to see.
It's our outreach team.
Pardon?
That's our outreach team that I was talking about. And I think they're still they're just moving into a new office and they're getting set up, and I think trying to figure out some stuff, but I think James can probably help.
Yeah, they're active every single day. They're going to different communities, different encampments all throughout the year. I don't know that they've been to the other side of the tracks, literally on Monterey. I do know with our Felipe Bridge Housing community that will be opening in December, there's a big encampment outside of that, and they're talking to those people and finding out people's interest into moving in there. I think, the direction the EIH took was that we're going to take, as many people from these motels as possible, because they're kicking them out. So
my question more related to that, you were going to go and kind of monitor the streets or the area on a routine basis, like once a week or something like that, and just see if everything's maintaining and staying the same.
So James, what he's talking about is the enhanced service and the enhanced service zone.
That's what it is.
About that.
Yeah, I can look into that. I don't know what the enhanced service is. I know we are dealing with the folks on the other side of Monterey. That's their own thing. We're, you know, focused on our own place. However, you know, if there's trash or loitering or this, that, or the other, we can have people, you know, we can address that with the folks living within our community.
James, you said something. You said you're dealing with the people on the other side of Monterey. What is that?
No, I said we aren't. We
Well,
are not.
You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the homeless response team's responsibility. so
Right.
city.
Yeah.
Vanessa addressed that a little bit earlier today. So who is the person, this outreach person you talked about, Jerome? That we could.
Well, we have an outreach team.
Can I get in contact with them?
Huh?
Can I get in contact with them somehow?
He put the email address in the chat. I copied it.
So you all are getting two people. So we have a volunteer, or not a volunteer, but a community outreach person that would outreach to folks like yourselves with concerns, with donations, with meetings, those types of things. And then we have an outreach team that goes out and works with the homeless in the encampments and tries to get them into shelter, tries to find them housing, those types of things.
And that's a different person.
Yeah, that's a whole different team. So we have one person assigned to our site that focuses on community residents, getting people involved with what we're doing, takes donations and volunteers. That's one person assigned to our team. That they don't really focus on the homeless at all.
Right.
Then we have an entire outreach team that does homeless outreach and goes and talks to people in the encampments and tries to get them into shelter, tries to provide, you know, permanent housing options, other types of things like that.
And would it be beneficial to get the contact information for that outreach team, or is there a way to contact them if we had some questions on their outreach around the community?
Yeah.
Who's that? Who is that? Can you guys put?
Francis Hernandez, I believe, is the supervisor for that.
Can you, is there a way to put that in the chat?
I'm gonna find out.
And Jay Balsetta, what's the first name there, Jay? The original, the outreach coordinator that you were discussing first. Who is that?
Her name is Jillian. So she would be the outreach coordinator if you want to make donations.
Yeah, Jillian. Okay.
Yes, she's the person that you would contact for that.
Jillian. Okay.
James, can you stop sharing your screen?
But I didn't know it was. I just have a black screen.
Just stop sharing.
Yeah, if you click up to go around the top of your screen, there we go. There you go.
Sorry about that.
Well, we appreciate you guys sticking around, and we are really sorry that it went so late. Some of the presentations went longer than we expected, but we really appreciate the information that you kind of stuck around to share with us. Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to working with you further down the road as things continue to grow, and hopefully have a lot of success with those people you're helping.
Thank you. And we'll have Jillian reach out to you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some there's different things. I think if they're doing something for Christmas, it would be nice to get some donations together. That would be something nice the community can do.
We intend to do stuff for holidays. You know, so it'd be much appreciated.
So Susan Fisher's asking, how do we contact Francis Hernandez? So if you guys have
yeah, it's F Hernandez
at
HomeFirst SCC.org.
I'm typing it right now. F Hernandez at HomeFirstSCC.org.
Yes.
Oh, somebody put it before me. Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. So Greg, you want to close this out? Is there anything else we need to talk about?
Yeah, I just wanted to say hello to somebody I haven't talked to in a while, Michael Van Dam. How you doing? You're muted, but how you been doing?
Can you hear me now? Yes, I'm doing fine.
Good. He lives around the corner from me.
Yeah.
And nice to see you, Teresa. I haven't said how you do earlier. Thanks for coming. And Chris, thanks.
You can unmute it if you
I
want.
hope
I just
everybody,
unmuted us if you want to say something.
excuse me. I hope everybody got some useful information out of here. We will be posting this recording on our website for all to see who couldn't make it tonight.
Hey, Greg, do you think that the next time that we meet, that we could have an update with an overview of how things are going with the program?
With this program?
Yes.
Oh,
You know,
mean
because
with
it's still
BH
fairly new.
Yeah, we're planning to have them give an update, maybe not as extensive as today, but we will invite them to every LPNA meeting going out, because we only meet once a quarter, and it's appropriate to have an update from them. It may not be the similar type of presentation, but that is definitely in the plans.
Because, one of the things, I want this to be successful, and I think all of you do. And over this last week, I saw so many negative things coming on Nextdoor. I had to shut it off because I know some of the people that are speaking on there don't have their facts. And, I'm not about to get on Nextdoor and start having individual conversations with people I don't even know about this program. But this was very helpful and insightful, what was said tonight. And that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, and Gary, I'd like to say, from my perspective, I think people have a tendency to correlate things that may not necessarily be correlated. We are going through a pandemic. It is an economic crisis that is impacting many, many people, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And there are going to be more homeless in our area. There's going to be more homeless in every area of the city. And I wish people would just understand that it has not necessarily anything to do with the BHC that just went in. It's just a fact that there's more homeless everywhere, and they're going to be coming into our area. And that's the thing that I wish we could convey, that they aren't necessarily correlated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to say something?
Greg, it was a very good meeting. I appreciated all the information. As far as Nextdoor is concerned, I've been off Nextdoor for quite a while. I just got tired of the snipping and snapping. And so originally it seemed to be a good idea, but, I think your work you're doing is much more useful.
Just like Facebook and Twitter seemed to be a good idea at first too.
I'm not on either one of those either. I do email, telephone, and handwritten letters. That's how I communicate.
Yeah, we've seen where they've gotten us, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
Good meeting. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much.
Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. We're sorry it went so long.
No, that's okay. Good information.
Great. Spread the word.
Okay.
Trying to spread the word also. Thanks a lot, everybody.
So Karen, before you disappear, check the comments. Susan was asking, was it F Hernandez or F Fernandez? I think you have a typo there. So you might want to provide some clarification.
Yeah, let me correct that, and then I'll save the chat.
Okay.
Oh, I guess they're right. I mean, I would be wrong. I thought he was saying Fernandez, but Ryan put Hernandez. So I'm gonna clarify that and say
You want to disconnect?
F Hernandez is the correct email. And I'll save the chat.
Connected, right?
No,
Okay.
it's still connected.
Yeah. Thanks for noting that. I didn't see that.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night and be healthy.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
too. Stay safe.
Stay safe, everyone.
Happy
We'll
Thanksgiving,
officially
everybody.
adjourn this meeting at
9:24.
We're only a half an hour or an hour late.
An hour late, an hour.
9:30,
As-
9:27.
As usual. It's generally par for the course.
Right. Thank you, guys. It was a good
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting
Bye-bye.
officially adjourned.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
To kill him. I just wanted to stop him.